We are back at it.
You expect to not get your teeth kicked in on your home field by Tulsa!
Champions of the Big 12.
This is not the 1980s OSU.
Zach Robinson, a lot of time going deep for Des Bryant. He's open. Diving catch. Touchdown, Oklahoma State.
We are back at it. Welcome back to another edition of the Pistols Firing Podcast. I'm Carson Cunningham, joined as always by Colby Powell. And back at it is the man himself, Kyle Porter, the founder emeritus of Pistols Firing Blog. The dream that was his has somehow evolved into a website, and this podcast has been going on 10 years now. Kyle, it is great to see you. Appreciate you helping us out with the tech today. We had the tech problems once again that we're known to have, but it's great to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Has it been 10 years? Is that right?
You called me in 2015, the Mason Rudolph small hands game against Texas down in Austin, and said, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast?" That was 2015. So yeah, I think we've now hit the 10-year mark for sure.
Do you think his hands have gotten bigger in the NFL? Like, do the Steelers have problems with his hands?
Clearly not. They keep signing him. He's still on the team. Landry Jones is like selling insurance now while Mason's still there in Pittsburgh. So maybe they did grow a little bit, or maybe just learned how to keep them dry.
Maybe his hands grew a little bit. How many career passes do you think Mason Rudolph has thrown in the NFL?
Maybe the hands is like the frontal lobe. Maybe the hands grow.
That's a good question. A few hundred at least. He's played some mop-up duty after injuries. I bet he's thrown 500 passes in the NFL.
I would say 150.
No way.
Let's see here. Let me see if I can.
He's gotten a lot of mop-up duty for injured quarterbacks.
He has thrown 688 passes.
Oh, well, I was way off.
For
Closest without going over.
28. I mean, he started 8 games in 2019.
That's true.
And he's had 18 starts in his career. Do you think his career has gone like you thought it would?
Yes. Exactly like I thought it would.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't. He was never like an NFL franchise quarterback starting guy.
See, I disagree. Like, I told Kyle this when I interviewed him after the 2014 Bedlam win. He just looked and sounded like an NFL quarterback. And I will say, I thought there were moments that Kyle and I used to talk about on the show where he would throw those outside the hash throws that you have to make in the NFL. He was probably the most prolific deep ball thrower in the country with James Washington running past people. So I thought that would have translated much better than it has so far.
It might be more appropriate to say that James Washington was the best deep ball runner in the country than that Rudolph was the best deep ball. What do you think? What is James Washington up to? I was thinking about him the other day.
Good question. Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't heard from James Washington in 2 years since he was a Cowboy, a Dallas Cowboy.
Did you guys used to text? Did you guys text?
No, I mean just like seeing him on TV. Yeah, no, we're close buddies. We go hunting and fishing all the time.
I think he does hunt and fish, right?
He does. I do not. Yes, I only play golf.
Yeah, same.
I mean, he got hurt, and see, I felt the opposite about James. I did not think he would translate to the NFL, just size-wise.
Yeah.
Well, his skill set is more for like a Dez. Yeah.
I thought he was fast enough. I thought Rudolph's arm strength and kind of his shot putty motion and his lack of mobility would get to him, and he'd be a career backup. But I thought James was fast enough that he could be a like low-end one on a like, I don't know, middling NFL team. Not like a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, but I don't know, like a Roma Dunze, just like a middle-of-the-road one.
Don't let Mason hear that, Colby. You know, Kyle and I used to joke. Mason thought he was like J.W. Walsh with the ball in his hands running. I mean, question for Colby, if Kyle can look it up, how many rushing touchdowns did Mason Rudolph have at Oklahoma State? It's going to be a lot higher than you remember, probably.
No, I remember he would take off for an occasional 12-yard scamper.
I'll say 10.
I think he had 10 in 1 year. I think he had 20.
No, he didn't. He didn't have 10 in 1 year. There's no way. 3 years, 2 games, 40 games. One every 4 games seems about right, but I'll go even less. I'll go 7.
Carson?
We talking total or 1 year?
Total.
I'll say 19.
17. He had 10 in 2017.
Wow.
See, 10 in 1 year.
I can't believe you nailed that. I can't believe you nailed that.
He had 2017, 61 rushes for 35 yards and 10 touchdowns.
I'm telling you, he thought he was, J.W. Walsh. I mean, he thought he was the most mobile quarterback in the country. This podcast is already off the rails, but we need to thank Chris's University Spirit, your one-stop cowboy shop, for sponsoring the podcast. Did Chris's come along when you were still doing the show, Kyle? Yeah, that's right. So long time, and I mean long time sponsor of the show, Chris's University Spirit. And oh, by the way, I'm dipping my toe into the merch game. We're trying to make Gallagher Iba rowdy again. I'll put a link on the show here for some merch. I couldn't find Doug Meacham's hat anywhere, so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to create the hat, and we're going to get him out there. So I created I think a better version, more classic O you'd see on like the letter jackets and stuff. So check out the link on the podcast here on YouTube, and go get your gear, because Steve Lutz is doing some things. Kyle, are you excited about basketball?
I mean, I'm more excited about basketball than football.
I don't blame you.
You live in the Dallas area, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Some fun basketball news down there lately.
Are you talking about Nico getting fired?
I'm talking about the entire Nico saga and just being in Dallas as that's happening. Are you a Thunder fan, though, I assume?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like – I kind of just follow the NBA the way I follow the NFL. I wouldn't really claim a team. I like players. I kind of like whoever my kids gravitate toward. And I'm definitely not a Mavs fan. I liked the Thunder because I loved KD, which we probably don't need to get into. But I mean, I thought it was awesome that they won it all. I was not, living and dying with every shot, but I thought it was very cool.
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can derail us again. Go ahead, Carson.
No, I mean, look, Kyle and I were in school when Kevin came to Gallagher Iba and had that 3 overtime game, and like there was a lot to like then. Since then, it's been kind of off the rails for him as well. Speaking of off the rails, the Thunder winning a championship was pretty fantastic. But I did want to, Kyle, dive into you're doing your normal sport thing now. You got your own website, your own company, really. Tell us about what's been going on for all the listeners out there that have wondered what Kyle Porter, the guy that started this whole thing with Pistols Firing, what he's been up to lately.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like in a lot of ways I left CBS Sports September of 2024, so whatever that 14 months ago, and I had been doing normal sport on the side. It's, for people that don't know, it's a newsletter, now a podcast, and social stuff, website about golf, and I'd kind of been doing it on the side since 2022, or really back to 2021. I wrote a book called Normal Sport. And I left CBS last year to launch it full time, and so it's been over a year now that we've been in business. But in a lot of ways, Carson, it's a throwback to the PFB days of like I'm kind of covering the sport that I'm covering the way that I want to do it, and I'm writing what I want to write, and now podcasting the way I want to podcast, and it's been a ton of fun. It's hard in the way that running any business is difficult, and just I remember talking to a buddy, and when I launched full time, and I said, give me your best advice. He'd been an entrepreneur for like 15 years. I was like, give me everything you got. And he looked at me and he's like, just don't run out of money. And at the time I was like, that's so dumb. Like, what is this guy talking about? And now, having done it for a year, because I always did PFB as a side gig. It was never my full-time thing. And so if it didn't make money over 6 months, you're like, okay, whatever. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And now this sort of has to work, and the only goal is to not run out of money. So we haven't run out of money yet, which is great. And it's been a ton of fun so far. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, don't run out of money is a great motto to live by. I think it's the fear we all have, whether we're in business on our own or, just paying your mortgage, things of that nature. But so I'm curious, you wrote a really cool, I thought, post on Mike Gundy when he was fired. All we've ever known since you started this website was Mike Gundy being the head coach. He took over while we were in college to be the head coach. And the irony of you starting Pistols Firing in 2011 with everything that happened that year. Colby was a freshman in college himself there. Like, you wrote a really heartfelt post about just how Mike Gundy has kind of taken you on this journey that started with Pistols Firing, and now you're kind of in the role you are in now, thanks to a lot of what he did on the football field in a weird way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I genuinely believe that. I think that would I have had a 12-year career at CBS and started my own golf media company if not for Mike Gundy? Maybe. Maybe not. I think that OSU's success in 2011, 2012, that era, and really it started in what I would say 08, 09, kind of the Dez, Zach Robinson, like all that. And it continued into obviously 2011 was kind of the apex of all of that. And what happened was, like, I just providentially picked the perfect year to start a website about Oklahoma State. And they went to the Fiesta Bowl and the Andrew Luck game and all that stuff. And, you know, at the time, Carson, I thought, okay, I want to use PFB to kind of like be a resume for myself to get a national sports writing job, which is kind of a naive thing to think. And for whatever reason, again, providentially, I just sort of met some of the right people and fell into the job at CBS Sports. And honestly, like, if they go 5-7 that year, like, maybe that doesn't happen. And honestly, it probably doesn't. And so when I say that Mike Gundy, who I've never had a good relationship with, we can talk about that if you want to, but to say that he changed my life is not hyperbole at all. You know, like, I got my job at CBS, and then I was working from home, and we adopted a child. We adopted our oldest daughter. So just things that, like, if you start to follow, like, the butterfly effect of what happened from starting Pistols Firing, it's some crazy stuff. And I think a lot of that I owe to Mike Gundy and the success that he had at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I thought your post, your story was really interesting because you did allude to the fact that you and Mike didn't always have the best relationship. And I'm kind of endlessly fascinated by Mike Gundy, the person, like how he interacts with people, what his interactions may or may not have been with the team, like the way it all ended, the way he built it up for 18 years and then just lit it on fire at the end. Like, everything about Mike Gundy fascinates me. So I would love to hear just a little bit, you don't have to dive too deep, but a little bit about your relationship with him as someone who came along kind of at the height of his powers and was around him for quite a long time.
Yeah, it was interesting because, you know, I was around him. I wasn't physically there a ton. You know, I covered Oklahoma State from living in Dallas from afar for a while. And that was the era of, like, you know, Deadspin and The Big Lead and all these kind of bloggy type places that was more of a common thing to just be a blogger and to write a post and to post as a fan. And that was sort of like the vein that I hit with people, I think. And, you know, Gundy he's very old school. Like, we always used to joke, like, me and Carson used to joke, like, all he wants to do is run the ball. Like, he wants to run like 50 times a game, right? And I think that attitude sort of carries over onto the media side of, like, he will deal with the Bill Hastings and Barry Trammells of the world because they're newspaper men and, like, they're old school and, like, that's what he knows. And when it comes to kind of the new mediums like podcasting or blogs or, you know, whatever, Instagram, like, he doesn't, I think, understand them. And when you don't understand something, I think you're fearful of it naturally. And so I think that he just always sort of dismissed me and dismissed our site and our coverage, even though we were one of the bigger platforms and probably I'm not, like, in it anymore, but probably still are covering Oklahoma State. And so that was just a weird thing to reject it. I mean, it took us like 7 years to get a media credential, which was just, I mean, I could ask Tiger Woods a question at the Masters, but I wasn't allowed to talk to Mike Gundy. It was outrageous. It was just insane stuff. And so I don't hold that against him because I think he just is set in his ways in a lot of ways. And I think that it's obviously been very beneficial to him professionally, but it was always a bummer because I thought that we provided very fair and oftentimes positive coverage for him and for their organization.
Quick follow-up. More nervous to ask them a question in person. I've asked Mike Gundy a question in person, and I've asked Tiger Woods a question in person. I was way more nervous to ask Tiger a question. Where did you fall in line on that?
Yeah, for sure, Tiger, because Tiger will give you a hard time if you mess the question up, and it'll go viral if you mess it up. With the OSU stuff, you're like, yeah, okay, some people might see this, but it's probably not going to be like all over Facebook and Twitter and like all these other places. I will say though, Colby, you can maybe attest to this. It's honestly sometimes easier to get into the presence or like into the areas where you can speak with guys like Tiger, Rory, Scotty than it is with college football coaches. College football coaches are like the most insulated, protected, have 50 people around them, public figures that I've ever. It's so bizarre to me. Like having those have been kind of the two worlds that I'm in, and to contrast them is pretty funny.
Yeah, that's true. Gundy was like the only time I ever spoke to him was at a press conference, and Tiger was the same setting. I only covered golf for a couple of years, but there were other guys like Victor Hovland, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, other guys just like out, just walking around that you could just like walk up and talk to, which is very unique. Part of what makes golf such a normal sport.
For sure.
Yeah, hashtag normal sport. Speaking of Mike, and look, I think Marshall Scott has taken over the website from you. He's done an amazing job. He's been great for us, for Colby and I to work with and work for. He drew the ire of Mike Gundy as well, just for asking a very straightforward question that needed to be asked about, potential staff changes and all of those things. And look, I think with Mike, I think the things you said are true, that not only is he set in his ways, I think he just had too much power. He had this rollover contract. He had literally, like, Mike Holder was gone, Burns Hargis was gone. He kind of had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted and respond to however he wanted to most things. And I'm curious, with the NIL era becoming what it's become, just like, what did you make of it from afar, seeing, okay, Mike Gundy's been fired, they've become one of the worst programs in the country, that you left with OSU kind of at or near the top of the Big 12, to see what it fell to after that? Just what's kind of been your reaction from afar, and then obviously the news that Mike was let go?
Well, I think it makes sense, right? Like if we're saying this is somebody that's kind of set in their ways, to transition into an even newer era of NIL and everything that goes along with that. I mean, to me, who's quite a bit younger than Mike Gundy, like, even to me, that world, the new sort of college football world, seems tiring. Like, it seems exhausting. And so to him, it must seem like another planet. Like, I am not surprised at all that he gets into a spat with what's Oregon's coach, Dan Lanning, and then Oregon goes out and beats him by 60. You're like, yeah, of course, you're like, you're not understanding what's going on here. And I think, it's interesting, Carson. I think I wrote about this a little bit in that post you're referencing, but one of the things that I always really liked about Gundy is that I thought he always did a great job of providing work-life balance for his coaches and his staff, and like that whole building, that whole organization. And maybe I'm wrong. I was not in there, but that was always sort of my sense. And I think in a lot of ways you have to be like a complete psycho in terms of work-life balance, being like tilted totally toward work to like thrive in college football. Maybe not at places where you're getting a ton of recruits like Georgia or Ohio State or whatever, but to build Oklahoma State into what Clemson became, you do have to be like sociopathic with your time. And he just sort of always refused to do that from a recruiting standpoint, and really from a time standpoint. And I respected that in a lot of ways, but I think ultimately it hurt. That, along with the refusal to enter into the new NIL era, really hurt him, and was probably ultimately the reason that he was let go.
Yeah, he seemed to struggle to adapt to what was happening in modern college football. But even with that, Kyle, like all of the ways that I could have ever envisioned the Mike Gundy era ending at Oklahoma State, like, this is the worst it could have possibly gone. Like, he clearly doesn't have any love in his heart right now for the Oklahoma State fan base. Every other head coach, and there have been about 15 of them across college football that have been fired this year, have sent out, whether it's a tweet, a typed-up statement on letterhead, whatever it is, thanking the fan base for all their time. Not a peep from Mike Gundy since he's been fired. The fan base at large, whether it's listeners of this podcast who interact in the chat on YouTube, send us tweets, people in my own life that I talk to that I've gotten texts from, were really worn out by Mike Gundy and don't really have any interest in hearing from him anytime soon. Like, in all the possible outcomes, this is the weirdest and worst way for it to end, right?
For sure. And you guys have been closer to it than I have. I was actually thinking the other day, I wonder, because I had known, I think, sort of broadly that he hadn't talked or hadn't made a statement or anything like that. But I wonder, like, when that's going to be. Like, will it be will he coach again? Will he sit down with any, like, is he just never going to speak publicly again? Like, that would be bizarre. And I think it's, I was telling a buddy the other day, we were talking about this, somebody that lives a couple streets over, also went to Oklahoma State, and we were talking about how the way it has ended is really a bummer, because I think, everybody's always out for blood, like fire the coach, whatever. And it's like, man, they were like pretty awesome for basically 20 years. And not every year, but you would take Oklahoma State's run from 2005 to 2025 over all but, I don't know, 8 teams, 10 teams in college football. And that's extraordinary. Like Wisconsin would kill for that, right? Like, they would kill for 20 years of what Mike Gundy did. And I hate that gets lost because of, and obscured because of the way it ended and the way that's sort of playing out. That's a bummer to me, because it covers up all the great things that he did and that took place at Oklahoma State over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, and there'll be a time and place where Mike can be celebrated, and they'll all hold hands and sing songs and sing Kumbaya. Just
Do you
not
think
right now.
You think that'll happen?
Time heals all wounds. I mean, I eventually think Kevin Durant, to bring it full circle, will have his jersey retired in Oklahoma City and will receive a standing ovation. Now, not for like 20 years. He's going to need a cane to walk out there. But I mean, Colby, Kevin deserves his. He helped build the Thunder into what they are. I mean, I know it's still fresh. I can't stand the guy either, but there will become a time and place where Mike gets either the field named after him, a statue, whatever pomp and circumstance they want to do. Just, it's clear that there's some hard feelings there, because he hasn't said a word about anything of that nature. But
do you guys think it's harder feelings from Gundy toward Oklahoma State or from Oklahoma State toward Gundy? Or is that a dumb question?
No, I think it's a great question.
I definitely think it's from Mike. I think what his kids said on Twitter, not about me, but about Mike in Oklahoma State, is how Mike feels. He feels that he is OSU football. You can just look at the before and after of wins, the 20-year run you mentioned, Kyle. And I think he really believes that, and I think he believes that he should be the one to decide when he calls it quits. And I don't think he liked his contract being restructured last December. So yeah, I think Mike has hard feelings, and I think Chad Weiberg, just like anyone else in his position, wants what's best for Oklahoma State. I don't think Chad has any hard feelings whatsoever.
I agree with Carson, not on the Kevin Durant stuff, but on the Mike Gundy stuff, that time heals all wounds. I think that wound will be healed when Oklahoma State is really good again. Like, if in 2, 3, 4, 5 years Oklahoma State is competing for winning Big 12 championships and is a really good program again, I think it'll be easy for everybody to come back and appreciate the 18 good years and just acknowledge 24 and 25 for outliers after college football had changed. He didn't evolve, whatever. It went bad, but we can overlook that because of the 18 years of success. So I do think time will heal that wound, but I'm not putting a specific date on it. I think it will be whenever everyone's happy because Oklahoma State football is winning again. Then we'll all be able to forget how miserable we've been for the last 15 months.
One of my good friends has a take that Oklahoma. He was maybe a little emotional after Gundy got fired, but his take was that Oklahoma State will never be good at football again because the NIL era kind of prohibits you. It's just prohibitive in terms of if you don't have, Texas's money, or even like what Texas Tech is doing, then it's just very difficult to get back up there. But my argument to him is like, and again, you guys know more about this than I do, but it seems like there's at least a soft, maybe hard salary cap coming on a lot of the NIL things. And to me, that speaks to like, okay, yeah, maybe it's a little weird right now, and like Texas is spending more, Ohio State's spending more, whatever, but will that sort of like be normalized in the near or long-term future?
Yeah, I mean, I think over time there's going to be more structure, and what you mentioned is happening, the hard cap, things like that. I think eventually college football will be sorted out in a more clear manner. Because right now it's the Wild West. But I actually disagree with your buddy in that just looking at a Texas Tech and even an Indiana. When in the history of college football, Kyle, remember when Dez got off the bus and Indiana Hoosiers were like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
Like Indiana's never been able to compete nationally, and all of a sudden they are now. What's the common denominator? I think NIL is the reason for that. I think they brought in last year and they won 11 games.
Are they spending a ton of money, Indiana?
I think they're spending smart money, and they have a good coach to do so. I think that's the key deal here is, do you have the coach? Because OSU's going to have funding. Like, they're not going to be – I think your friend might be falling into that trap where everyone thinks OSU's poor just because Mike Gundy complained about it. Well, Mike Gundy lost a ton of financial support over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Just a ton. And there's a ton ready to open up the checkbook. There really is.
Well, and the Toronto Blue Jays were about 7 different plays away from beating the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Like, sometimes small money can beat big money, but like Carson said, small money has to be efficient. Small money has to be spent really well. So that's why Oklahoma State, like Indiana's not spending as much as Ohio State, Texas A&M, those schools, but they're spending the money wisely. They're being efficient with it. They've got a great coach. They're winning in that area. So I think that's what Oklahoma State's going to have to do, is win in the margins. And anyone else who wants to win in the margins should hit up Brewster Consulting Group. The Pistols Firing Podcast is brought to you by Brewster. Do any of these sound familiar at your company? Processes that are manual and inefficient with no documentation, data reporting that takes forever and is not accurate. You hear all the hype about AI, but you have no clue what it actually means for your business. Projects always running over time, always running over budget. If so, talk with our friends at Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations that run like well-oiled machines with clear processes, reliable data and reporting, and technology that actually works for you. They've worked for local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, they're founded and run by proud Oklahoma State alum and season ticket holder. Learn more about them at www.brewsterconsulting.com or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting Group on LinkedIn or YouTube. So, Kyle, how much Oklahoma State athletics do you consume nowadays in your golf covering life? The football team, that's probably a big ask to take 3 hours out of your day to watch them. But how much Oklahoma State athletics have you actually been able to take in over the last year or two?
Yeah, it's really just like whatever my kids want, like however much they want to consume. So when Oklahoma State is humming, like they want to watch. And like my son and I went to the Big 12 championship when they played Baylor a couple years ago here in Dallas. And so it's really dependent on, my kids are now at the ages where they're playing select baseball and flag football and doing dance. And so, like, as you guys know, the Saturdays and weekends are just filled up with all that stuff, which is a ton of fun, but it's a little bit harder. Like, I don't know that I would have been able to run Pistols Firing now the way that I was, 10 years ago when my kids were 2 years old. So that's been a little bit different. But all that to say, like, I turned the Oregon game on. I was like, watched like 5 plays. I was like, I think that's enough. Like, I think I've seen enough.
I might have watched the same amount, and I still do a podcast about it.
I think I texted Carson like, they're playing a different sport. Like, these are different organizations. Like, it was shocking. And that's
Mike was checked out. I mean,
yeah, it was tough to watch.
How can they be that bad?
Yeah, so I think I'm just much more of a casual fan now, and I think that, now I look at the fall, especially with football, this will be different if they get good in basketball again and March Madness and everything. But in the fall, I just look at it as such good downtime from golf to just enjoy our family and spend time with the kids and do other things. So I definitely don't follow it like I used to, and it's much more casual now.
Well, you wrote an article. I think it popped up on Twitter a couple weeks ago. Like, I think you wrote this article 7 years ago, and why Zach Robinson would be a likely successor for Mike Gundy, and it reminded me how much I miss you writing about Oklahoma State, because like it's one thing to just write, yeah, Zach played quarterback there, all the reasons we know, but you pointed out the difference between like his career and J.W. Walsh's. J.W. Walsh, I believe at the time of the article that you wrote, was at like Incarnate Word or some small level school coaching receivers or something. Mm-hmm. And you're like, that's a little different than being in the same room as Sean McVay. and the trajectories of those two people. So one, it was a great reminder of how you like to view things perhaps from a different lens than most people in a great way. And also now with Zach being one of the top candidates, it was pretty prophetic in a way. So just your thoughts on Zach. He was on this show with us, that live show we did down in Dallas years ago. That would be a full circle moment for the pod as well.
Yeah, I still have his number. I've been tempted to text him and just be like, "Hey, what's the offer? Like, what's the deal?"
Call him right now.
Yeah, get Drake London's on my fantasy team. Like, you got to keep throwing to him, man. I think, well, a couple things. One, Zach was so nice to come. I think like that he had to drive like 30 or 45 minutes to get to that show that we did, which was crazy, and he didn't need to do, and he was very nice to do it. I think what's interesting about him and really a lot of, I mean, you see it with who's the Patriots offensive coordinator, Josh
McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels, yeah. You get guys that are like elite play callers. We saw this with Dana a little bit also, where you're an elite play caller. You're unbelievable in terms of scheming and leading a unit, scoring, stopping, whatever it is you're doing. But then you get into the head coaching role, and it's almost like a different profession, because as a head coach, you are in charge of things like vision and leadership and organization and, like just all these things that are such different skill sets than what you're doing as a coordinator or a position coach. And so I always think about that whenever it's like, hey, this guy's an offensive coordinator, I bet he'd make a great head coach. And you're like, maybe. I mean, I know that's a very like common path or route to get to being a head coach, whether it's in college or professionally, but I don't know that that's always the best path. If you're hiring, I don't know if that's always the best path to take. All of that to say, I don't think whatever Zach has done or not done with the Falcons, like if you're like, oh, his offense stinks, like he shouldn't be the head coach at OSU. I don't evaluate it based on that. Evaluate on whether he has good vision, whether he'd be a good leader, whether he'd be a good spokesperson for Oklahoma State. And in my mind, those things have always been true. Like he's not like the rah, brash, loud guy, but I think he really has, to me, a thoughtfulness to him, a vision to him, a calm presence to him. I think he'd be unbelievable as the head coach at OSU, even if he maybe hasn't had the most success or as much success as people envision being the offensive coordinator for the Falcons.
Yeah, Colby, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, we've talked circles around this coaching search, and we're both just ready to have a conclusion to it. And if you look at the Vegas odds, it's either going to be Eric Morris, the head coach at North Texas, who'd be bringing his quarterback and his offense with him, or it's going to be Zach Robinson. They're basically co-favorites at about 2-1 to be the next head coach. And I don't know. I think it would be phenomenal if it was Zach. There's obviously the tie right there. I've said many times I love the coincidence that he'd be getting hired 16 years after he last played quarterback at Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy was hired 16 years after he last played quarterback at Oklahoma State. If we could have another 20-year run, that's the best 20-year run in school history with a former quarterback, like that would be a lot of fun. But I just don't know. I just don't know if that's the way to go with a guy who's never been at this level. I did want to get your thoughts. We've only got a few minutes left. Oklahoma State golf. You're the golf guy. Surely you were tuned into the national championships and rooting for Bratton's squad, and they're kind of like the Thunder. They had a bunch of young dudes, and they brought them all back and paid them.
Yeah, they were awesome. That was a ton of fun. They've got some studs. I mean, guys that made the Walker Cup team that are going to be. I think that's the thing, man. Like you look at some of these guys that are on the Walker Cup, and you're like, you'd be like the 40th best guy on the PGA Tour right now. Like right now. Like not 5 years from now, but like right now. And so I think when, we'll see how it goes, but I think you've got some guys on that team that are going to go out right away onto the PGA Tour and have a lot of success. So, yeah, it's always fun the NCAAs were awesome. I actually got to play that course a couple years ago. It's tougher than they made it look, especially when it's windy and it's very difficult. So it's fun to see them have success again.
How's your golf game, Kyle?
I mean, the thing I always tell people, I have the ball speed of like a 2 handicap and the scoring of like a 28. So it's somewhere in the middle of that. I'm like a 10 right now, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
Kyle can move it. I've seen it. Maybe Kyle and the OSU golf team could turn to Wolf Corporation, America's most trusted commercial real estate listing brokerage since 2010. Their experienced team specializes in showcasing their retail, office, or industrial space to the right buyers and tenants across the state. Better yet, they're based right here in Oklahoma and deliver results with local expertise. Visit Wolf Corporation at WULFcorporation.com or call 405-308-3480 today. Go Pokes. Yeah, Kyle, I mean, Preston Stout, just a few more minutes here and we'll get out of here. Preston Stout to me looks like a total hoss, a total horse, a Victor Hovland-esque talent. Watching that guy play in the Walker Cup. He was just, I mean, I was pretty critical of Alan Bratton. People, that's no mystery to anyone listening to the show. I was wondering where this thing was going after, missing out on, the last few years before they won the national title, but he's restocked and reloaded. And Colby rightfully pointed out, it took him a minute to replenish the roster when they had those defections. Brian Stark going to Texas, Eugene Ochikara to the Live. So Alan Bratton he reestablished OSU as a power in the golf world.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Stout's obviously a stud. I think he's going to be awesome on the PGA Tour. Fang is obviously very good as well. They've kept that Scandinavian pipeline open right after Hovland. I can't remember the freshman's name. Philip something, I believe.
Philip Fallberg Johnson.
There you go. He looks like he's like 28, by the way. You're watching him, and you're like, how's he a freshman? Like, he looks like he's 5 years younger than me. So I'm excited about Stout's career because he's got the build of like a Wyndham Clark or somebody like that, where you're like, this guy's a beast, and he's so freaking good. So I'm excited to see what he does as a professional.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. Last one for me, Kyle. I mean, it's time to make Gallagher Iba what it was when Kevin Durant came to town. You probably haven't watched much Steve Lutz basketball. It's only his second year, but they're loaded, man. They have a ton of talent, and I think they're clearly going to be a tournament team this year, if not challenge for the Big 12. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You didn't really get to cover OSU basketball at the heights that it was when you and I were in school. Just your thoughts on the basketball program and where it is and where it can go under Steve Lutz.
Yeah, my writing about Oklahoma State basketball when I was running Pistols Firing was, here are the details of Travis Ford's contract. Here's who's going to replace Brad Underwood. just nonsense stuff all the time. It would be
Doug
awesome.
Home.
Oh gosh, I forgot about all that. There's nothing better than GIA when it's thumping, when it's really good. When you say their roster, or when they have a ton of talent, is that mostly recruiting out of high school? Or is it transfers? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, mostly transfers. They just dog walked Texas A&M on Sunday by like 30, and Oklahoma State's supposedly best player, just a walking 25 points, hasn't played yet. So yeah, they're looking pretty good.
Wow. Okay.
They're loaded, man. I don't know. And again, I think Steve Lutz has done all the hard work behind the scenes that Mike Gundy wasn't willing to do. That's why they were able to land some of these guys. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fake that, right? Like, I think if there's anything I've learned, or that we've probably all learned in our careers, is if you're not putting in the time, if you're not watching the golf, if you're not doing the research, if you're not scouring the transcripts, like, you can fake it for a little bit, but you can't fake it for very long. And I think the same is true in any profession, and specifically with the type of profession that you're talking about with coaching and with running a program. Like, it's just very hard to fake. And I really wanted Mike Boynton to succeed and to thrive. Like, I loved him personally. I thought he was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed him, but obviously they had to move on and make a change, and it seems like they're at least going in the right direction.
All right, Kyle, appreciate you joining us. How do people find you and devour the Normal Sport content?
Yeah, normalsport.com. You can find everything there. Our 2 times a week newsletter. We've got the show going on YouTube now, so you can just search Normal Sport on YouTube, Spotify, whatever. I appreciate everybody that is still. I get emails from people that are like, "I've been reading you for 15 years," and you're like, "Why?" Like, I can't believe you're still along for the ride. So, yeah, I really am grateful for that. So, thank you guys for having me on.
Yep, it's
Thanks,
been an
Kyle.
enjoy. Colby, we'll get back with you next week.
Sounds good. Appreciate everyone listening. As always, go Pokes.
All right, thanks, Kyle. We are back at it.
You expect to not get your teeth kicked in on your home field by Tulsa!
Champions of the Big 12.
This is not the 1980s OSU.
Zach Robinson, a lot of time going deep for Des Bryant. He's